What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the next episode of this Grade 8 Mesh tutorial. This is episode 40, and the last episode we celebrated by finishing drawing the lips finally, and now we can move on to the finishing touches of this drawing. Hopefully they won't take too long, but it won't nearly be as grueling and as long as the lips, so that's something to look forward to as we finish out this drawing. We're going to move on to the eyebrows, the left eyebrow in particular first, and we're going to start off by making just a layer for the left eyebrow. We don't want to work on the same layer as our lips or anything. Everything wants its own layer. It's going to make it easier to identify later and look at our changes, and be just so you can turn things off and on like that. Anyway, I found this these little brushes, these hair brushes, a while ago. I'm talking about these here. On the internet, you can find them free. I just googled free hair brushes, Illustrator. And then what you could do is, depending on which one you find, I find these work just fine, and I'll show you like this one looks like. So this brush right here, this one looks like this, and depending on how much, how long you hold it down, and obviously if you have a Wacom tablet or some sort of pressurized sensor computer, the amount of pressure you put on the pen is also going to dictate the stroke, which is a kind of a cool thing that they added. Now for me, I don't think I have really any type of thing like that other than manually changing the stroke. But that's what that hair stroke looks like, so I'm just going to undo that. And the thinner one gives us different sizing. And these are nice brushes. I really like these brushes. The third one is also just slightly different from the first. Not too bad at all. Fourth one is a little strange. I'm not really sure what's its deal. But, I mean, it could be useful depending on, if you like the way it looks. But I preferably don't like to use that one at all. So the first three are pretty much my go-tos. Now, we're not going to start off by using these brushes. First, we're going to make a background layer like we've been doing this whole time. We would like the lips, just like the face layer. We have our kind of, in paintings, you layer a lot of different types of inks and paints down on top of each other. So you start with a base coat, and then you keep adding more coats until you add more and more detail that you're, seeing through. That's where opacity comes in. It makes it look like a painting. You're constantly laying doing some overlay and painting over things, and you're able to see through and see the blend of colors that is happening from all these layers. What we're going to do is just that. We're going to start off by making a base layer, and just like the rest of our meshes, we're going to start off with a square or rectangle, and we are going to make it white. We don't want to use any other color. Now, we've been doing this whole face for a while now, and if you don't know how to start off by drawing the mesh, I'm going to kind of go over it briefly, the beginning processes of drawing the mesh, really because we're starting a new topic, but realistically I went over this process in much more depth in the previous episodes of this major playlist tutorial. So I advise if you're a newcomer to mesh and this is the first episode you clicked, please go back and look at my older episodes. I think you'll get a much better vibe of what you need to do to make Grade 8 mesh work, because the eyebrow is going to be a little simple of a mesh, so I don't think you're going to really get the idea. But this is how we start off. We take a square, and what we're going to do is just add a gradient mesh point directly in the center of that square. So this is what we're going to start out with. What I'm going to do is just rotate it just so it kind of follows the trend of the eyebrow. The eyebrow is kind of running like this, so I think the center point should be running along the center like that. But nonetheless, what we're going to do, I'm just going to quickly make this bigger. And we could take our points, and then we can just start moving them to the realistic locations that they would fall. So our rightmost center point is going to be at the rightmost center of our eyebrows. And we continue that trend. Top center point goes to top center. I'm going to actually change this color because tan is very similar to our eyebrow color that we're using, so I can't really see it, nor can you. So maybe a blue. That's kind of fine. So we're just going to make sure our Bezier curves are staying consistent. And we're going to move these points down and put them in their respective locations. Now we can see our Bezier curves are getting a little out of control, so we just want to make sure we're touching these Bezier curves up as we go, because this is going to dictate how proper the mesh is going to work. And the line I'm following basically is the line of color change. So we can kind of see where we have skin, and then we can kind of see the darkness of the center of the eyebrow here. We can try to imagine like there is no hair right now, and if you were to just see it as a solid shape, that is what I'm drawing. I'm trying to box in the shape of dark color coming from the eyebrow, so then we could go over this shape with brushing, with hair brushing. And if you're not understanding or visualizing what I'm saying, don't worry, we'll get there one step at a time. So you can see that now we're just making our center line run through the center consistently across the eyebrow. We don't want the center to go off path, we don't want it to go left and right, and then we want it to be consistently straight throughout the entire shape. And this is going to set up the trend for the rest of the lines we add within the box. So we're just going to make sure these lines are nice and curved. You know, these are not hard edges here. We have kind of a curvature trend going on. And we will be blending the edge points with the face and the skin. So do not worry, because we're going to be covering most of that edge anyway with brush overlay, because we do have a lot of hair that goes over the edge here. So we don't want to be too conscious of the edge, but we want it to look good. You know, we don't want to be sloppy. So I think that's looking pretty good as an external shape. Now what we need to do is, we don't want to go crazy, but we do need to add a little bit of color change and detail into this mesh. Primarily what I see is, again, if I were to make this one solid shape and I were to just take away all the hair, I would kind of see like a light tan area here. I would see like a darker tan here. I would see a little bit of a lighter tan or a lighter brown, almost like a grayish red kind of going on, and then it goes back to dark. So we don't want to have too many points, but we do want to have some. Now I added 1 point to identify this part over here with the darker tan, but we have some problems with our Bezier curves, and we want to be tending to these curves before we get out of control. And now we can see that this point, this curve, is actually meeting with this point here. And I could take this curve and I could do that, but that's not what I want to do. I want this to be a little bit more linear of a line. So what I need to do, so I can make space, is bring this guy all the way down. I have to fix the curve here. And now this guy has room to come all the way down here, right? And it's going to be able to give me the room to be a little bit more calm with the transition of this line. Before it was going all the way over here, and now what we have is this line is coming really close to the edge near this point. And I want to do the same for this guy too. Keep in mind that we will be fixing the edge at all times, so we want to just make sure that the boundary is staying the same. We still want to be following the right path, right? We don't want to mess up our path, but we also want to be consistent and acknowledging all the new points we add and where they are falling. So this guy's gonna come all the way down, and so is this guy. It's gonna come all the way down, right? Because we gotta make room. Okay, we're just tweaking the edges, making sure the lines are working. I'm gonna bring this guy even further down, and that's looking about right. I wanted to kind of follow this trend. I see like the color kind of comes into a point here and kind of folds out. You can see how this like grayish part kind of points down, and then we have this kind of ring forming imaginary line to this darker area here. So that's kind of what I'm trying to shape. Okay, we want these to be nice and smooth, a nice consistent curve all the way around, and that is looking pretty decent. It's more along the lines of what I was looking to get out of that. But now we have a little bit of an issue. We have to have, basically, we need this corner point over here. We're kind of losing this whole area, and what we need to do is we need to take all 3 of these points and kind of bring them towards the center of our eyebrow. So now we can complete this curve again. We can make this line, right? Gonna just make sure this is staying consistently straight. It looks like it's going off the path a little bit. Okay. And now that those points in the middle right here that I'm working with are kind of replacing the points that I moved before, and we're still keeping that shape. But we're also building the color structure of the mesh, and you can see that we're starting to get it really nicely now. So I have this color here. I'm going to add 1 point in the middle here, just so I can, if I were to source a color point here and get this dark color, the dark color would come out to here, at least to here, and make sure I fill in all the color I intend to be over here. This is going to be basically the point that's going to identify what color is going to show up in this kind of box that we formed over here. This is a very important point, and you'll see why later when we fill in the color. But what we're really doing is boxing in color, and then we're adding points within those boxes to identify that shape. So we boxed in our dark color here, and we made a point in the middle to identify that color. Now, on to the next one. We're gonna see that, well, first actually, let me just fix this a little bit. Just bring these guys a little bit in. I'm gonna have to keep moving the lines manually. All right, so next point, take our gradient mesh tool, and we're gonna hit the middle of this gray area right now, just so we have a little bit of detail change from here to here, because I don't need too much detail, but I do need a color change from this gray to this dark. And I think that is going to do it just fine, that point right there. And I think another point right here would be good, because this is when we start to get from the light tan to the gray, is about like right over here is our transition. And I'm looking at the directionality of the eyebrow, and I'm looking at the shape of the color and the way it's kind of trending, and everything's kind of falling to the right. You can see how everything's kind of trending to the right. So what I'm just going to do is now I'm going to kind of move this point over to the right and kind of try and follow the trend of the way the color is moving, just so I can get it to be a little bit more accurate when I start to fill in the color. I'm hoping that the color is going to try and trend towards the way I will be brushing in the future. So when I'm doing my brush tool with my hair brushing over here, these brushes, when I take my tool, I'm probably going to be moving, in a direction like this, like to the left, because I'm going to be following the hair, right? It's moving to the left. So I kind of want my color to flow in that direction to give just a little bit more support to my layer above. Even though the layer above, the hair layer, will be covering a lot of this base plate that we're making, we still, again, want to be a little bit consistent at all times, just like we were consistent in being really accurate across the entire tutorial. So I think we can use this line that we just made as almost like an imaginary barrier between this light gray and this lighter tan here. So what we could do is take the gradient mesh and just add one more point in between here, and that point is going to source the color from this area, and then we would see some change between this area and this color here, and then over here will be light gray. And obviously some people learn differently. I'm just doing a lot of talking, and if you're just tuning in now and you haven't been watching the entire tutorial, I'm going to fill in the color right away on this mesh, and you're going to see what I'm talking about, and how the color kind of lays itself out within these boxes we've made. And hopefully we can get a good representation of what I made. So let me just speed run through these colors quick. What I'm just going to do is grab my direct selection tool with the letter A on the keyboard. Then I'm going to hit I on the keyboard for the eyedropper tool. And if I hit the control key, now I'm bouncing quickly back and forth between my eyedropper and my direct selection. It's going to make this process quickly. We don't have many points to color. Again, if you're just tuning in now, that's just a quick way to make this process go quicker. So let's just quickly fill in this color here. Alright, so that was quick, but this is pretty much what we made. So you can see we have our darker color over here, right? And you know what, I actually think I need one more point in here, because my darkness is traveling too far too fast. So if I add a point in here, and then I change these guys edge points to, a similar color, now we could almost see that bend a little bit more here. But we can see that we have our darker corner in here. We have a light transition to that lighter gray tone, which is kind of up here. You see that? I'm going to blend it a little bit. And then we have that division between the light gray and the dark, and then we kind of get back to the tan, which is kind of a nice little back layer. I think we have a pretty accurate tonality to that eyebrow. So we're just going to give it a quick save. We're going to leave that eyebrow like that for the most part inside. We're not going to get too crazy with it. What we do need to do is we need to take these edge points on the eyebrow, and we're just going to select the closest color on the face, and we're going to give it a nice quick edge blend. So you can kind of see what we're doing here. We're just blending the edges of the eyebrow to the face. All right, so not too bad, right? Only problem is we when we made the face layer, right, we sectioned off this part of the eyebrow to be covered. Now it covers most of it, but we did kind of leave a little bit of error here. These little lines kind of coming off of our shape are not supposed to be there. So before we get involved in doing anything else, we're gonna go back and fix these points, and we're just gonna clean them up because they're just a little sloppy right now and they're not supposed to be there. So that's looking better. Let's go here. Let's take these points and start blending upward, away, and into the skin color. If you don't know what I'm doing right now blending wise, I advise please watch other tutorials. I mean, I will be doing this much more because we've done most of this already. A lot of the shapes coming forward will not be needing this treatment a lot. So again, if you don't know what I'm blending or how I'm blending right now, please just take the time to watch one of the other tutorials. It'll really teach you a lot because I've been through a lot with this tutorial. You can see how much I've drawn, and it was not an easy process. So please take your time and learn. But we're just trying to get this edge to be a little bit more accurate in regards to the face color because this spot is supposed to have eyebrow. So now you can see that we kind of got rid of that sloppiness over there on the eyebrow. It still can use a little work, so let's just do one little touch up here. And a lot of this again is going to be covered. We're going to be doing a lot of brush strokes above this eyebrow shape to add that hair look. So I'm hoping that a lot of that hair is going to be kind of floating above this area and do a lot of the cover up itself. Alright, so that's looking, I think, definitely a little cleaner. Just doing a little bit more blending here. Just getting this area nice and smooth. Alright, so let me just go back and touch up the eyebrow now that I just made some changes to the edge here. We had some color variation and now I can see my edges again. So let me go back and just retouch up the edge. I'm kind of liking how much color is being influenced into the shape when I hit these edges, because I want this to be feathered and kind of see-through, because realistically this is going to be hair. Now hair is sometimes see-through. You could see through like cracks of the hair, or if hair is not all clumped together, there is negative space in hair. So if I can create the look of negative space or opacity, that's going to be very helpful when drawing hair. We're going to be using a lot of different opacities with brushes and just doing a lot of layering in general. So we're getting a little problem with the face again. Let me fix this point here. You can see this darkness coming out. Don't want that here. All right, so that's definitely looking pretty good. So now that I'm over here, I just want to make a correction. It seems like I missed an edge on this eye layer. So this layer seems to have a point that's 100% opacity. I knew it. Yep, fix that little section. Okay. What is going on over here again? Eyebrow. Did I not match it? No, I matched it. Let's lower the opacity of this guy, make this one 0. Let's add more points to help this edge, because I don't have enough detail points to source different color over here. There's just kind of no points between here and here. That's kind of making it hard. Drop some opacities. Try and get some better blending. Alright, so I think that looks good. That's really smooth. Let's save that. So, alright, so that's pretty much how you want to start out by drawing the eyebrow. Now, even if I left it like that, it would even look pretty decent. I mean, she definitely needs a little bit of hair on there, but that's not a bad looking eyebrow, you know? I mean, that's very feminine, kind of has the right shape to her face that that was presented to me in the picture. What I'm going to do is, before I even do the hair, is I'm going to actually go do exactly what I did to this left eyebrow, and I'm just going to do the right eyebrow right now. So let me just jump right into that and get that shape out of the way, because I just want my face to kind of come together a little bit faster right now. So we're going to skip this and we're going to go do the same exact process for the right eyebrow now. Alright, so let's move on to the right eyebrow. I'm just getting a little irritated by how bright this is. It's better. Let's move on to this right eyebrow here and start the same exact process that we just finished up doing. So let's hide the face layer so we can see. And we're going to conform it to the top of the screen. We're not going to pretend draw anything like the whole time I've been drawing to the bound of what I've been provided image-wise. So that's really as far as we're going to go with that. So let's go to our square tool or a rectangle marquee tool. And we're going to do the same thing. Hit the center point, and then we're going to just turn this to make this a little bit more visibly easy. So now our center is going to be running just like that. I'm actually going to hide my eye layers here because it's making it just a slightly hard to see my edge perfectly. Control click our eyeball here to make it go into outline mode, and now we can see our 8 points, our 8 edge points, and now we're going to just line them up exactly where we think they should be. So our center point's going to stay in our center, so we want to just make sure that, approximately in the middle where you think the middle of this shape would be. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure, especially because it's a simple shape, just make sure it is staying running through the middle the whole time. We don't want to mess up the actual trend of the mesh, okay? Just take these points and curl them out. We don't want any really too many hard edges with the eyebrows. It's going to be pretty smooth and feathered to the skin anyway, so just make sure you're taking accountability for that. I'm actually going to bring this in a little bit. Let's see, like this, like that. Make this smaller. Okay, that's good. This guy's going to sit on the edge. I'm going to turn on my smart guide so I can just easily hook onto the edge of the page, and then I can easily just take my anchors and square them off just like that. Okay, This guy's gonna get pushed to this corner right about there, and we're gonna need another point to sit up here. But let's just straighten out this curve first, and we're gonna add our first point that is necessary right up into this corner up here, and then we're gonna square this guy off. Just like that. So now, if I just fix this point, we're gonna have our perfect boundary box to the right eyebrow back layer. You know, this is again gonna be our base plate layer. And notice how I just moved that center point to the right. I want to keep it as close to the center and trend to the center as possible. So let's just identify some color we have here. We don't really have too much color change going on in this shape particularly. I just really see the same tan color, and then the only really changing color I see is maybe this center highlight or this slightly lighter portion in the middle. And what I'm going to do is something a little creative with the middle point here is actually I'm going to take this, and we can see that this is trending upward, right? And again, we don't have to be too perfect. So my idea is to keep the mesh relatively simple, is to kind of just make this whole area right here, all this line, just trend in that direction. And then what I'm going to do as well is place this middle point on top of that highlight, so I source that color when I select my color for this mesh. And then I will definitely capture that brightness. It's gonna move the color and trend it kind of upwards and through the mesh. And then all I really need, I think, if it all plays right, we're gonna see if we need to mess with it a little bit, is a point about right here. Actually a little lower, maybe towards the bottom, like right here. And then we can just move this guy down a bit. It's a little too high up there. I'm actually gonna make this point and trade it for that corner that I made before, because I just think it was just looking nicer, and it's just a little bit more compressed at the bottom. So let's leave it like that. Let's fix this guy. So now this line down here is gonna be able to pick up that dark brown color when I select the color. My middle points are gonna be selecting that tan color that I've just worked on, and it's gonna create that nice even blend divide between the middle and the bottom, and then we can source color at the top. And that's really all I think we need for this mesh to work. Again, want to keep it simple. The hairbrush technique is gonna bring it to life. That's gonna be on top of this shape. So let's just quickly speed run through this color. Alright, so just to make myself clear, like I was explaining before, is that we have our dark tan spot over here. We have that light transition, like I was talking about in here, and then we have the darker happening back up in here again. Now I'm just going to do a little touch-up blending. Okay, I think that's pretty solid, just like that. I'm going to save. Now I'm going to turn my face layer back on so we can do that blending that I did before. So I can take my edge points, and I can color match to the closest source color from the face as I can so it looks feathered. And then from there we can decide if we need to drop some opacities, which I probably will, because we want to create that negative space look that hair has. I think this eyebrow should be going to the edge of the face. Let me just make sure. Yeah, let me bring it to the edge here. Technically I could have made the eyebrow go, let's say, like, maybe we just might. Let's just bring this guy in, bring this guy up. Come this, bring this like that. Yeah. Make sure this is straight. Seems like the face isn't actually straight. So let me just fix this. See how it's not on the edge. All right, I'm just gonna move on from that from right now. And what we need to do is take our edge points and finish the blending. I don't think I finished it. Okay, I'm gonna drop the opacity now on the edge points and see if I can get that negative space look that I'm trying to get. Alright, so a little problem we have here is that as I drop the opacity on this point, you can see that we see the face through here on the hair that's going to sit over the face. And I think that actually looks fine because, one, I'm going to cover it with hair, actual brush strokes, and two, that hair over there is above the face and it should be a little see-through and have some transparency because hair isn't perfectly solid, you know, it's many strokes of line. and sometimes there are gaps and there are ports of negative space you could see through, and I think it's a little bit more realistic if you're able to see the skin almost through the eyebrow. So I'm gonna leave it like that actually. I think there's something wrong just a little bit with this area right here. I kind of see eyebrow where there's not supposed to be eyebrow. That's coming from the face layer where we did the definition point of where I think the eyebrow is going to go in the future. Turns out I was a little off. I think I should make it a little more tight now. So let me just smoothen out this part of the face a little bit by doing a little blending technique. And if you're not sure what I'm doing right now with this left-right color selection technique, I'd please just advise watch again a previous tutorial where I go over this stuff in much more depth and I show you and teach you, when in this case I'm just kind of doing it. You can learn probably from watching, but hopefully maybe I say something important that kind of gives you that eureka moment if you're still struggling with this. Alright, so looking a little better. I just see a little bit of streakiness. I'm just gonna hide this to see what it looks like. Alright, so I think we can leave that as is right now. Again, I'm gonna cover it with hair strokes, and that's gonna really clean it up and make it stand out much more. It's gonna give it that actual hair look. And I think I'm just gonna close it out here just to section it off. So now that we started, we have made the base plates of the actual eyebrows. And what we're going to use these base plates for is our background to our overlay brushes that we have imported here. And I didn't actually say how to import brushes. It's going to come in an Illustrator file most likely, or in a zip, and then you extract an Illustrator file, or maybe an EPS. And then you go into your brushes window and you hit this little book icon, brush libraries menu. And you're going to have all these different brushes that you can actually import into the brushes menu, if you didn't know that are already built into Illustrator. But we don't want any of those. We want to hit other library, and then your file explorer is going to open up just like this, right? You have your file explorer, and you're going to locate your brush file. In this case, like I'm going to show you where mine is. I have it saved in this folder, and then I would hit this and just hit open, and then it just instantly imports the brush library from that Illustrator document. You're not actually opening up the Illustrator document, you're opening up the brush library within that document. So that's how you import it, but nonetheless, we're going to start doing that stroking to the eyebrows in the next episode, hopefully finish it in the next episode. And then once we're done with it there, we can then move on to the hair, which is actually going to be a fairly simple version of the eyebrows. We're going to make a big plate, right? We're going to make a big background, and then we only really see brush strokes. We're going to go over it for the most part everywhere, but for the most part, you can only see the brush strokes maybe here, and very, very slightly, if any, if you really can at here. I can get away with totally making that just black or the dark brown, and you only see the brush strokes up here. So it's gonna almost be like only up here and over here. And that's gonna make our life a little easier just based on the luck of the image and the luck of the draw. But like once we finish the eyebrow brushes, we're like so close to being done. I can't wait. So thank you guys for sticking it out. My name is Mark DiMattei. You can find me on Instagram at markdarts. That's MARKD_ARTS. I really appreciate everyone watching, and I really hope everyone is learning. And I hope I'm doing a good job, because I know I'm not always talking to the best of my ability, but it's so hard to sit here for 30 plus hours and also try and narrate while I'm thinking and just drawing. You know, it's not an easy task, and I'm getting better at it, hopefully, and I hope that just even watching me alone, you know, even if you muted me, I'm still assuming you can kind of pick up on what I'm doing and learn. So thank you for everyone who stuck it out this far. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Send me feedback. I'd love to hear how you guys are doing, and I'll see you on the next one. Episode 41 coming for you. Let's get those eyebrows done.